Have you ever found yourself weirdly obsessed with closing the rings on your smartwatch? Or maybe you felt that little rush when you earn a badge in your fitness app. You know, it might just seem like a game, but there's some really serious science at play. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden psychology inside your health apps, that secret ingredient that's designed to change your behavior one single tap at a time.
Okay, let's kick things off with a number. A really, really big one. 635 million. That is the estimated number of adults worldwide who have prediabetes. And what that means is their blood sugar is higher than it should be, putting them squarely on the path toward type 2 diabetes.
So yeah, we're talking about a silent health crisis on a massive scale. For folks with prediabetes, the risk of it becoming full-blown diabetes is somewhere between 5 and 10% every single year. That's a ticking clock for hundreds of millions of people. Now, lifestyle changes can make a huge difference, but trying to reach that many people with traditional methods, that's a monumental challenge.
But here's the thought. What if a powerful tool to help manage all of this was already right there, in pretty much everyone's pocket? This, of course, is where digital health apps come into the picture. They offer a scalable, really personal way to deliver support. But what is actually going on inside these apps that makes them tick?
Let's get into it. Let's talk about the secret sauce that makes these apps work. It's all about behavioral science. First up, we need to get a key term on the table: Digital Therapeutics, or DTX for short. Now, I want you to think of these not just as regular wellness apps, but as evidence-based, software-driven interventions. They're designed to act like a real therapy or a medical treatment, all delivered right through your device.
So, where does the power of DTX come from? Well, it's not just about fancy code. It's actually rooted deep in behavioral science, the study of, why we do the things we do. By understanding our cognitive triggers and our emotional drivers, developers can create a blueprint to help us build better, healthier habits. And if behavioral science is the blueprint, then what are the actual tools? Well, they're called behavior change techniques, or BCTs. And honestly, the best way to think about them is as the active ingredients. These are the specific, targeted strategies that are embedded in an app to nudge you, to motivate you, and to guide you. They're these psychological tools doing all the heavy lifting. Okay, so behavior change techniques sounds super academic, right? A little dry. So let's break down what this psychology in your pocket actually looks and feels like when you're using an app. So a recent review looked at 21 different studies on apps for prediabetes, and you know what? A really clear pattern just popped right out. The most common techniques are things you are absolutely going to recognize: self-monitoring, goal setting, getting some instructions, and having social support. This is basically the core playbook for building a digital health app that works. Let's make this even more real. Self-monitoring? That's just the app asking you to log your meals or track your steps. Simple. Goal setting? That's when it helps you create a daily step target that maybe gets a little higher each week. Feedback and reinforcement could be earning points or those digital badges for hitting your goals. And social support? That could be anything from a team step challenge at work to messaging a real health coach. See? You've seen all these features before. The only difference is now you know the psychology that's making them work.
Okay, so we've got this powerful psychological toolkit embedded right into our phones. And that leads us to the most important question of all, right? With all this science baked in, do these digital therapeutics actually work? It's time to check the scorecard.
Well, the answer, as it turns out, is complicated. It's not a simple yes or no. The research shows that while the potential is absolutely there, the outcomes aren't always consistent. The findings are, well, a bit of a mixed bag. So let's break that down. On the one hand, you have some clear wins. Half the studies saw significant weight loss, which is great, and some apps had incredibly high user engagement. But on the other hand, fewer than half of them saw real improvements in HbA1c, and that's a super important measure of your average blood sugar control over months. Plus, a lot of the time, any positive effects just faded over time.
Understanding why the results are so mixed is really the key to figuring out what comes next. By looking at the current limitations, we can start to see a clear path forward for making these digital tools even more effective for more people.
So what are the big hurdles we need to clear? Well, first, a lot of studies just threw these psychological techniques in there without a clear overarching theory. It's kind of like using amazing ingredients, but with no recipe. Second, most of these studies were pretty short-term, so we don't know much about long-lasting change. Third, they often rely on us to report our own data, which, let's be honest, can be a little unreliable. And finally, a huge one, Most of this research is done in high-income Western countries, so we have no idea how well these apps work for everyone everywhere else.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's pretty clear. Digital therapeutics have this enormous promise, but to really unlock their full potential, we've got to get smarter. And that means better integrating psychological theory into the actual app design, conducting way more inclusive research, and developing tech that can create truly personalized, long-lasting change.
So we're left with this really powerful thought. The technology we carry around with us every single day can absolutely change our behavior. The real question, the one we all need to be asking, is how do we make sure we're designing it to change our lives for the better, thoughtfully, effectively, and for everyone?